it's called here. I'm co-chair, Mike's the chair. Actually, hey, Nicole, can you take some notes for us here? Sweet. So Permanent Installation Council, Mike and I have been talking about a lot of the things going on in the industry, trying to figure out if there's any changes going on, any updates. The big thing that occurred about 3-4 years ago with the addition of testing anchors within the codes. Has anybody experienced any issues with that? I.e. pushback, anything? Just open up for discussion on testing of anchors, davits, all that stuff.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say that the thing that I've found, and you said you found that we discussed that when walking and working surfaces changed, that everybody calls it the new OSHA testing, even though it's 4 years old now. And there doesn't seem to be the question about if equipment has to be tested anymore once it's installed. And so we're wondering what other, if anybody else has had any pushback or seen the same thing or had the same experiences we have. Is there anything that we need to do along those lines to promote it any further? It seems to be fairly well ingrained. We're looking for other people's opinions.
Eric, you had your hand up. So I do, yeah. So what I do know is the testing to 4-to-1 versus 2-to-1 safety factor in the field is actually being reevaluated right now, at least with the A120. They're kind of re-looking at all of that. It's just a big question mark right now.
So there's no consensus yet as to what should be?
Not fully. I mean, there's certain engineering firms that still want to go and test a 4-to-1 safety factor in the field. But yet the actual code is still saying 2-to-1 safety factor.
But what about requiring 5,000 pounds as a working load instead of 5,000 pound ultimate?
That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
It's whether it's going to be a 5,000 pound pull in the field testing, or whether it's just going to be the working load of 1250 4-to-1 safety factor off of that to 5,000 pounds. So pull test to 2,500 pounds.
Okay. And so at this point, there are still specs out there that are being produced that are treating it as a 5,000 pound working.
Correct.
Okay.
Walking and working surfaces gives you several options, but basically I think it ultimately leaves it up to the structural engineer what he'll accept and sign off on. But for the most part, I think the A120 is still 2,500 pounds for tiebacks, and I thought that they were considering it an ultimate load of 5,000 pounds. I know that I have seen a couple of times the specification for the 5,000 pound working load test, and in those instances we make a different anchor and make people aware that it's a more costly option if they really want it that way, that we believe the industry norm is the 2,500 pounds, and we'll do it, but we change the anchor if they insist on following that in the specification.
Yeah, the big concern with Mike and I both is the fact that when testing to that, the actual structure of the building itself can now be, you know, really compromised. So it's just a big question mark, and trying to isolate that and get that just a consensus across the board that what we test to, what we don't test to, is it's definitely still a issue. Outside of that, anybody else have any other discussion on that? Okay.
Does anybody think that there's anything that we need to do to promote that? Or I know I haven't seen a 5,000 pound requirement in quite a while yet. It's been well over a year, I believe, since I've seen that.
So I said this is a consensus body. So documents coming from an industry group seems that it would carry some credibility in the marketplace, you know, in the industry. Because I think that if we as a group can come together and put something forward, that at least it's available for architects, engineers, designers, you know, we're at least trying to reach out. Because, you know, I don't agree with what's being required if there's a 5,000 pound working load. I don't think that was ever the intent when OSHA put the, you know, if you don't know the anchor, it has to have at least a 5,000 pound failure. So that would be ultimate. So I think if the industry goes the other direction, they're really not doing what's required or what was the intent of those original rules.
And I think most of us agree with that. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a SAIA letter of how to test anchors, correct?
It's been so long since I read it. I don't remember if it's actually how to test anchorage or if it was a position letter that we put through several years ago that I believe stated that we believed in the industry standard of 2 times the rated capacity. I'm not sure how it stated it, and it went through all the requirements of SAIA to publish something like that. Maybe we just publish that letter and review that letter and publish it again in the magazine again if we're still seeing things that we don't agree with. If not, I guess we would have to publish we'd have to run a new letter through all the different checks at SAIA to publish a letter, publish some statement or position like that again.
I don't think you'd get a lot of pushback on that, though. I think that would be approved rather quickly because of the people that were involved originally. I just think that if you put a document and it came through the council, so now you've got a group specializing in this aspect of the industry and it's coming from a consensus body, that it would carry some weight in the industry. So anyone reaching out and having questions, at least they would have this to grab onto. Like I said, architects, engineers, people that don't know, people that have no idea, what am I supposed to do? I've been asked to put an anchor on top of this building. What's the design? Where do I start? So.
That's good comment. We can look at that and see what that letter actually fully said, and I'll look into that and see if we can just, whether we edit it or add a new one or if that one does encompass it, we could even, you know, the next slide is going to be about what we can actually talk about for future topics in the magazine. That could be a great one to add in there.
Just a quick point that if it's the 2011 letter about testing procedures, it's on the website under the PI council.
And it says 2 to 1.
You want to put it on the record? I'll read the whole damn thing for you. The consensus of our industry promulgated and adopted testing procedures, which are embodied in the ANSI standard. Let me see if I can get down to where. Load suspension devices shall not be tested to more than 2 times the rated working load, which the device is designed to lift or support. And then roof tieback shall be tested to no more than 50% of their rated capacity. For example, a roof tieback rated for a capacity of 5,000 pounds shall not be tested in excess of 2,500 pounds.
Yeah, so maybe what we do is just do a update on the next magazine. You'll see in here about actually talking about that letter, what we really fully agree as a committee.
So when we do testing, we go to 3,600 following OSHA because the maximum fall arrest force is 1,800 pounds. So that's a 2 to 1 to that.
36, 2 to 118. Sean? Oh. We had a feeling this would bring up some.
Mine's more of a comment. We did put something together some years ago, and I was checking to see if Krister was on the call, and he is not. And he had put out a letter, and he was attacked by Wiss Janie Elsner. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that that letter was there, and that if something new is going to come out, that has to be taken into account.
Sean, did you have anything else or no? Okay. Thank you.
That's all right.
All right, which kind of goes into the next topic of magazines for what we could bring up as next article. You know, this could be one of those, testing of equipment, anchors, all the above. Or if there's any special projects of something, you know, anybody that had out there of a permanent install. We did an article on davits aren't davits, because a lot of people say, oh yeah, a davit up there is on the top of the building, and you go up and it's not a davit, it's an anchor. So we did an article on exactly what davits are, what anchors are, what pedestals are, all the above. If we see other terminology issues, you know, out there, you know, open for discussion on what else we could bring up and discuss in the next magazine article. Any comments on what people would like to see? All the above?
Hey, this is Brian Hillier. I don't really have a comment on what I'd like to see, but I do have a question because I'm new into this council. Do you guys have any links that I can see some of the old articles that you guys have put out so I can have a better understanding of permanent installations?
I don't know that answer. Jackie, is there past articles of permanent installations on the website? Okay. So I don't know if you can hear that, but what what everybody's saying is you can go onto the website and look, but it's not a true search for permanent installation. You actually have to go through all the different past issues in order to find it. If not, you can email and we can send them over to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right, hey, Brian, I just to reference the article for the magazine, I think that if you get into terminology and have some, straightforward, kind of like permanent installation 101 type diagrams, I think a lot of people would enjoy reading that and see what you run up. If you go on to a roof of a building, what are you going to find? What I find a lot of times is what's not there on the roof of the building. But yeah, just if you walk out the front and look down the street, you'll see some davit arms hanging out over the building that's 1 or 2 blocks away from here. But I think that would, from this group, that with the talent and the experience in this group, that you could put together a pretty brief article that would explain a lot. I think there would be a lot of interest within our group.
Okay.
Does your guys' group deal with permanent ladders and ladder installation? No.
Yeah.
Access ladders and that, or no?
Not usually fixed ladders. I mean, there's rolling ladders that don't seem to be used a whole lot anymore, that used to be shaped to fit the certain special shapes on buildings and were like gantries that are rolling, but we don't typically deal a whole lot with fixed ladders.
Okay, fixed access ladders come under A14.3, which is the ladder standard. It has nothing to do with the scaffolding standard, Wendy.
Are you good with that answer?
Yeah, I just, I've gotten up here, we get different people thinking that the permanent ladders are the same as scaffold ladders, which is totally different. So I thought, well, maybe if we did a comparison of, permanent access versus scaffold access ladders and do the difference, but it's probably not this council that would do anything like that then.
If I can expand on what Eric's suggestion was saying, OSHA takes 29 CFR and publishes, there's my favorite is 3150. It is just the rules as they're applied to scaffold. A document that took just the OSHA regulations or the ANSI standard regulations that pertain to the PI, to the stuff on the roof, a small document that just explained in plain English what these rules are and what they mean would probably be very popular.
Okay. Any other suggestions? Next is going to be a speaker at the convention itself. Does anybody have any special projects that they'd like to feature, topics that they'd like to see there, or even do a demonstration on something of permanent installations? Nothing? Okay. Mike, do you have anything else to that you want to add on?
No, I think we covered what we had intended to cover. I just thinking about the article that comes to mind that we might have for an article, say, tell people what a BMU is, you know, as a building maintenance unit, and it's all of these below, and it falls in line with what they were saying about an article of what the equipment is. So that might be a a label for it, you know, what is a BMU, and it's all of those things. So.
All right, any other comments? Questions? All right, and I guess, thank you very much.
Great job, gentlemen. Thank you.